Hello, my name is Jihan Tong, and I'll introduce about the things that I've learned and experienced in learning about international tourism and culture 2021 Fall Travel Project Day class by Professor Torres. In the first week, we have introduced ourselves in Zoom about ourselves, and I've told that my hometown was Busan and introduced about Busan to my classmates since it was first time meeting them in Zoom, not face to face. It was a bit awkward, but as explained about my hometown and myself and getting to know about them as well, it was very useful to work with and know each other better. So I told my major that I'm in international relations in Cameron Adams College. And also I've shared my experiences in traveling international and domestic travel. I've I have introduced about the travel that I've went to Australia, Taiwan, Japan, Singapore, and Bali. For me, Bali was especially important since I've lived there for 7.5 years, and Japan since I majored in Japanese in high school, and Singapore since I've been there like more than several times. Since I live in Bali, it was close. I have many experiences in going there, and Australia as well. And domestically, since right now I'm in Cameron University, I have traveled across the Daegu city and Busan, where I'm from, Pohang, since my grandparents live there, and Gyeongju and Seoul with my friends. I've traveled to many places in nationally. And I've also told why am I listening to this class to my classmates and to my professor. I major in international relations, and it was essential for me to have interest in other nations, culture, and tourism. And it's somewhat related to my parents' business, so it was interesting for me to attend this class and listen to the lecture. In week 5, we have discussed about the tourism project and with my partner, and we made a package tour to Jeonju, and it was a culture tourism project and going package going on 1 night and 2 days, since many modern people do not have much time for holidays. And we have set some things and accommodations and food for the package customers. And in week 7, we have learned about tourism products the week before. And in week 7, I introduced about the tourism products in Bali that I've experienced. So firstly, I introduced about the Jimbaran beach, where there's a beach, and along the beach, there's a lot of seafood restaurants, which could be enjoyed with the sunset and the people swimming in this beach. So I think for me, that was a really good experience. And I introduced about the temples in Bali, since Bali is a country with a lot of temples around the city and around the nation. I think that was really cool when I first went there, since I did not have any approach or some kind of experience looking at such big temples in Korea. And even in hotels and accommodations, the temple structured designments were really well furnished. So I thought that was an attraction that is really unique and what only Bali people can do. And I've also explained about the rice fields in the stairway. Um, that was a feature of Bali's agriculture movement, and I think that was cool since in Korea is just flat land with flat mass agriculture. And I introduced about this stone, which is made into a temple by people. And it was really cool when I first saw this, but after some time, I've acknowledged that cutting rocks down for people is not really that good. So, but it was an attraction in Bali. So I think that was not bad experience, though now I realize that it was not such a good thing to do. And I've also introduced about the resorts and accommodation nearby the beach and inside the beach. So I introduced about the features that the advantage they can have or the disadvantage they can have. And in week 9, we have learned about the tourists and their typologies and travel preferences the week before and introduced what kinds of tourists we are and what kind of typologies and preferences we have when we travel. So I introduced about my type of tourist and typologies and preferences. I told that I'm a drifter and organized mass tourist, and I'm an allocentric and psychocentric person when I travel. In the next week, we have done a group project learning about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when we were done with learning of that, we have learned what it was, and it could be specified into sociological, safety, belonging or love, esteem or self-respect, self-actualization. So I learned about these terms, and it was really interesting for me since I had no idea about what they were or what they could come to an approach for me when I travel. So after what we have learned, we have searched up a package store that consists of the needs of people when we are going on a travel with a package. In week 10, we have introduced what our motives are when we go to travel. So I explained about the Gyeongju experience that I've experienced. I've told about the Donggung and Walji as pleasure, since when people think of Gyeongju, many people think that Gyeongju is a historical place and there are many monuments from the past. So I think that gives us pleasure by looking at them and having peace within us by looking at the monuments from the past, also such as Cheomseongdae. I've introduced about the Gyeongju world as well, since it gives us pleasure as well when we go to a place and we enjoy the place fully. So Gyeongju world was one thing that I experienced. And in the next week, we have also introduced about the cultural benefits that could give to us and the nation in tourism. This was also a group project done by 5 people. So in the table of contents, we have the definition of culture, example of Japan, India, and United States, and conclusion. So in the introduction part, we have told to the class what is culture exactly. And we have gave some examples of Japan's hot springs, that hot springs was really famous from the past, and Japan is still utilizing the hot springs in their tourism. And India's curry, and United States Thanksgiving holiday, which is really large and famous in other nations as well, not only United States. And we have concluded that culture is a very special and gifted thing that is given to us, and we should acknowledge that we must not forget it and we must not discriminate it. And after that, the week after, we have introduced about the Japanese tourism in the pandemic situation. This was also a group project, and we have introduced that before the pandemic, there was a boycott of Korea, which was the biggest consumer in Japanese tourism. So with the Japanese tourism demand going down, Japanese tourism went down the road, and Japanese tour transportation fee also dropped as the rate of Japanese tourism demand went down together. But before the pandemic, Japan had many attractive festivals and had many tourists visiting Japan in the festival season, such as the Snow Festival or the Light Festival. But during the pandemic, suspension of visibility, suspension of visa exemption measures, entry of foreign nationals with exceptional circumstances, and national emergency lifting, Japan tourism went down the road more during the pandemic. But what government did to revitalize it was when it was with Corona that the Asians got together and established. So improving the Japanese economy was a really good thing that government did, creating a flow of people from urban to rural areas, increasing income in rural areas, and conducting regional revitalization through such measures as reform to tourism and agricultural industries. The week after, I've introduced about the Indonesian culture that I've experienced, and this was the last presentation that I've done in this class and shared my experience to my classmates and my professor. This was the map of Indonesia, and when I presented, I told that Indonesia is an archipelago consisting of more than 3,000, but when I researched it again, it was like more than 26,000 islands. So it was really big archipelago. I've also told about the Indonesia symbol of unity and what it represents. And it was a Garuda, which is the wings of 17 feathers, represents the Indonesia's Independence Day in August 17, and its tails represent August as the 8th month of the year. And the neck has 45 feathers because it's in year 1945. But Garuda is not a real bird, and it's a mythological creature that Indonesian people believe in. And I also experienced wearing the traditional clothes and the dance of the Indonesia's culture, but I don't have a video of me doing that. So I showed a short video on Indonesia's traditional clothes and dance. And I have explained also about what I have enjoyed eating there as a person living in Bali and experiencing the Indonesian culture. And I've also introduced about the art of Indonesian people. Mostly they had the mythological creatures in their art since they believe in many gods and their beliefs are all different per region. And this was really seen in many places, also in your accommodation or such thing. So that was really a new thing for me. And it was a really fun experience looking at the pictures and understanding them by their culture. And I've also explained about what I've experienced in Bali, which was the international school, national school differences. And that was really cool since in Korea, we don't usually go to international school when we live in Korea, but many Indonesian people and Balinese people came to international school to widen their aspects and perspectives of seeing things. And that was a really new thing for me since I never had those feelings that I should learn more or widen such views. But after studying with them, I also got the motivation to widen my view and see things in a broader way. So that was the last thing that I've introduced when I was in this class. And by this class, I learned that many things are important when we go to travel. And I also learned about the things that I should apply when I go to travel. And the things that I've learned in this class was really helpful for me since I've never known such things. Some things that I have known, but most of the things that I have not yet known. So that was a thing that I really thank the professor and my classmates to introduce for me. And listening to presentations every week was really helpful, and presenting every week was really helpful in my presentation skills. And knowing other people's experiences and those kinds of things that they did when they went there was really fresh and exciting to know about. So I think this class gave me some refreshment about what tourism actually is and how we should travel when we go to another place. And I think that was really good for me. So thank you for teaching me these things. And I really thank the professor for what she taught to me. Thank you.